Good afternoon. I apologize for my tardiness.
Are you late? Oh, you are.
Just a few minutes.
You don't Tony.
Let's begin this morning. Apologize. If you guys see me holding my stomach, I'm sorry. I had a little surgery about a week ago to remove my appendix, and it's a little sore sometimes. So somebody joked with me earlier today, you look like you're pregnant because you keep holding your stomach. So if you see me do that, I'm sorry. Let's begin this afternoon with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into some business.
Yeah, we got time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, let's do the roll call, please. Present. Excellent.
Here. She'll be here.
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 Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've been called to order. We've done the pledge and the roll call. Presentation to the guest first participants. Okay, so before we jump into the agenda real quick, we're going to have a discussion today just to kind of update everybody on what's going on with the current crisis, the coronavirus. But let's go ahead and let's get some of the good news out of the way first. I don't want anybody to sit here and think, wow, they're talking about all this, but are they going to address the elephant in the room? Yeah, I think so. We absolutely will. But it looks like this presentation isn't going to be very long at all, Tam. So let's do the good news presentation on the guest first participants earning their hotel and lodging education certificates, and then we'll jump into the business of the day. Okay? So, that's a great point that Tam mentioned. Normally we'll go up and shake hands. Out of sensitivity to everybody today, we'll just wave. Congratulations, okay?
You'll come up and get your certificate, but...
We're just going to get the presentation loaded up. Here we go.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for being here today. So again, as we celebrate, we definitely want to continue to thank you to the community and all your continued support, as we are one of the only destinations to have this partnership designation with the American Hotel Lodging Education Institute. And thanks to each of you that will be getting your certificates today for all your dedication and attending all the classes. And I'm very proud to say, as our community, literally 40 minutes before this meeting started, I got new results in. So we are now up to 974 certified guest service professionals. So again, congratulations to each of you as you have dedicated your time to this program. So as I call your name, you're going to come up and you're going to receive your new certification and your designated pin from Jason. So as I call your name, make your way up to the front. So from Broadway Palm Dinner, we have Terry Love. From the Holiday Inn Express Cape Coral, we have Holly Pendergrass. From the Lee County Parks and Recreation, we have Jim Fike. From Lee County Solid Waste, we have Ernest Cover. Okay, so Tim, you got to help me here. Tim LaMontagne. Yes. We have Michelle Lesniak. We have Robert Midget. And we have Gary Reeve.
All right. Congratulations.
From Lee County Visitor Convention Bureau, we have Marion Dotson, and we have Ray Saraceno.
All right.
From Royal Shell Vacations, we have Janice Bonnet and Jessica Lopez. From Sierra Club, we have Bonnie Clancy. From Shell Point, we have Nina, Melakakis. Thank you.
Right.
From South Seas Resort, we have O'Shane Lewis. From the Southwest Florida Military Museum, we have Elizabeth Marsh. From Storm Smart, we have Maria Mori. From Sundial Beach Resort, we have Jenny Guido, and we have Rebecca Meyer. From the IMAG, we have Griselle Brewster and Carlos Adams. And with Travel with Ease, we have Lynn Sullivan. At this time, is there anyone that came to be recognized today that was not called? All right. Well, thank you again. This concludes our presentation.
That is excellent. Listen, I want to take a moment and say to everybody who came before you run out today, thank you very much for all that you guys did to go through this class. You are going to make tourism even better for Lee County here. It's one of the reasons why people come back, because this is just a great area to visit, and you all are so hospitable. So I apologize for not being able to shake all your hands today, but we want you to stay safe, and we also want you to know we truly appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm just going to pause a moment to let everybody take off who wants to take off.
Well, abundance of caution, surfaces, touchscreen surface. So.
Yeah.
It's going to be a drinking game by Saturday.
Abundance of caution.
All of it. Yeah.
We will, of course, send you the packet electronically after the meeting, so you'll have the full packet, like we always do.
Oh, so we don't have the iPads for people to use? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I mean, we did clean them, but...
Yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying. All right, it looks like everybody's filtered out.
By the way, because I was like trying to get him out of my reach.
So we'll go ahead and get on to, before we jump into approval of the meeting minutes, I just wanted to kind of give you all an update. So the coronavirus situation is really changing minute by minute. We learned just a few minutes ago, and I don't know all the details, but Major League Baseball has announced that they're shutting down spring training and suspending operations indefinitely. We've seen several other Major League sports franchises do the same. Earlier this afternoon, we learned from Governor DeSantis that he's recommending that local municipalities and people who privately are putting on major events that have more than 1,000 people there, that they go ahead and cancel those events and not hold those gatherings. So we've also learned today that even the United States Congress, the Senate and the House, have stopped accepting public visitors at the House and Senate buildings and even the Capitol. So they're going to do their business without the public there. So the situation is changing quite a bit. And this morning we did learn that we have a third case in Lee County. The person was in their mid-50s, a male. I spoke with the Department of Health this morning, and while she is still doing the investigation on how this happened, she did feel highly confident that it would be another travel-related case. So these are things that we're watching, and everybody, I think, is trying to figure out what the right move is. And here in Lee County, I think, I'd love to hear our county manager's comments as well, but I think we're going to go ahead and start to take our cues from, obviously, the president, the federal government, and even our governor, and look at what the state's response is and make sure that we're in line with their response so that we're all cohesive and coordinated. And Mr. DeGillet, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and address that now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been in touch with most of the cities, and in fact, we're having a meeting this afternoon at 3:30 with all of our partner agencies out at the EOC, and that includes all of the cities and the health department, fire departments, and many others, just to have a discussion about how this event is evolving. And it is, the Commissioner's right, it's evolving. It's faster than day by day. The guidance from the Department of Health and messaging coming out of the Governor's office has changed significantly over the last few days. The Governor, for example, in a press conference today, as the Commissioner says, is recommending that public gatherings of 1,000 or more people be postponed or canceled. Major League Sports is canceling some of their seasonal activities. And so the question to us has been, are we going to cancel any local activities? I mean, the Shrimp Festival is this weekend. The answer is we're not going to recommend to the board that we even attempt to cancel any of these events. We think people need to be governed by guidance that comes from the Department of Health and the CDC and the Governor's office. To do otherwise, we don't have a basis for as a matter of policy, doing something different. Now, part of our discussion over the next couple of days will be how are we going to treat public facilities? Will there be internal meetings that include the public? Will those be canceled? Right now, we're not recommending to the chair that we cancel Tuesday's board meeting. We expect that to continue, and we've not canceled any other meetings. Now, the governor has canceled all travel for state employees. So I expect we'll be following suit, and we'll make that announcement either tomorrow or Monday. So we're just, as this evolves, our plan is to work with the cities and other entities to make sure we're messaging to the community with just really one voice to avoid confusion. It's really, it's been difficult to wrap our arms around exactly what we ought to be telling the public. But we'll be working very closely with cities and other agencies to come up with a unified message so that we can, whether we need to issue messaging daily or less often, but we will make sure that everyone in this room, it's going to be really obvious what we're doing.
Thanks, Roger, for those comments. And so, this is obviously not out of any attempt to try and panic people, but I do think it is incumbent upon us to follow what the state is setting out as a path forward for this and how to react to this. So for like events this weekend, obviously we don't have the authority to jump in and cancel any of those events anyways. But I do think that it's important that as people consider whether to go out this weekend, and look, all of us want to have an amazing event, but we also all want to be healthy too. So especially if you're one of these folks who are in the higher risk populations, think about whether you want to go out this weekend. And
Commissioner, one last thing I failed to mention. All of the cities and Lee County government issue special events permits, and we will, by Monday, probably be making the announcement that we will not issue any additional public events permits. For us, the threshold is 1,000 people or more until further notice.
Yeah, Fran, go ahead.
Anything about the election? I mean, I know Fort Myers Beach, Bonita has a special election Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I just wonder if you'd heard anything.
So we've received no official word yet on any of that, and I assume that even the state will weigh in on the presidential preference primary in some of those elections. I did see that our supervisor of elections did lose a couple of polling places because they were at facilities where there is an at-risk population, the assisted living facilities, and so they didn't want to bring the public into that facility. And so I think that was a prudent decision, but we'll make sure that gets out to the news and gets broadcast so that people know how to respond accordingly. And, Roger mentioned the county commission meeting. I'll tell you, my preference is that as long as Lee County employees are working, then the Board of Commissioners is going to meet. Because I couldn't in good conscience as a board member or the chairman of the organization say, you can go to work, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to work, and we'll take all the appropriate precautions. But and the great thing is we have the ability to broadcast meetings on TV. So if you're a member of the public, you still have the ability to watch on television, send us emails, call us on the phone, and talk to us in any of those manners as well. So anything else? Yes, Mayor Saracita.
Commissioner and County Manager DeJarle, so you all know this weekend, I mean, for Fort Myers Beach, it's the biggest weekend of the year, Shrimp Festival, and then on Monday, St. Patrick's Day Parade, and then on Tuesday, our local election. And last night and this morning, I have been flooded with phone calls questioning, are we canceling any of those events? I've told them all that I was going to come to this meeting. Now we'll follow up with the EOC meeting as well and bring back the best information we can. But my comment has been, you know, as islanders, we plan well for hurricanes. And so I said, you know, this is a Category 5 and add wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. So, but I have a sister who works in a pulmonology office. And her doctors are saying that we should exercise extreme precautions. But I don't know how you exercise an extreme precaution at the Shrimp Festival, quite honestly. But I agree, and I hope that, I guess our message is for people to have individual responsibility as to whether or not, I know you recently had surgery. I suspect you won't be at the Shrimp Festival, will you? And I think that people who have to exercise their own personal responsibility to this fact, and maybe, like, you know, there was no parking downtown. I'm way back in the back 40, but here, you know, this is kind of empty. So I don't know where the people are, but, you know, it is, I think I think your words, Roger, are really prudent, and we certainly will follow suit.
And, you know, I think obviously in this room, we're all concerned about the potential economic impact of this. This is not going to be something that's unique to Lee County.
No.
When you look at the organizations that are now closing down seasons and events, this is going to be felt nationwide, and probably already is being felt nationwide. And so we will weather it, and we'll come back appropriately once we kind of know what that looks like. The problem is it has really continued to change moment by moment. And
Ryan, are we going to hear from Ben?
Yeah, you know,
Conversation rather than later?
we did. Ben, why don't you go ahead and come to the podium real quick and just kind of share with us, similar to what you shared with us at the Port Authority meeting this morning. So we are still seeing plenty of activity at the airport, but it may not be as busy of a march as we would traditionally see. Is that the best way to sum it up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. For the record, Ben Siegel, Acting Airport Executive Director. Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting. You know, I feel like it's kind of business as usual at the airport, but we all know better. The amount of aircraft activity that we have going on in operations, there really hasn't been any changes to that. But what we are starting to see is obviously less people on those airplanes. I've talked to several different airlines. Globally, you know, there's significant cuts going on across, you know, all their different lines of business. But nothing really significant in our market. One airline, Southwest, for example, is, you know, they're planning, I mean, they are cutting one flight, I believe, but other than that, they're planning their normal cuts, you know, after Easter that you would typically see. My gut tells me there's going to be more coming. This is, you know, really depends on how long this is going to last. We've had an outstanding season, the airport as a whole, as you know that. I feel very confident that we'll weather the storm, but it is a significant storm. I mean, just the travel restrictions, just to kind of put it into perspective, just the travel restrictions alone that they announced, that the president announced last night, you know, that's like 600 flights a day coming into this country, you know, full of, you know, obviously people either doing business or traveling, you know, for pleasure. So it's very significant. I mean, there's 46 million people come from that region alone a year. So it's significant, but we're confident we're going to get through it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. There is one flight, I will mention Eurowings flight has canceled. That's starting on Saturday. They will not be coming in, and we don't know exactly when it will be coming back, but that flight has been canceled.
And that's the flight to Germany?
That's the flight to Dusseldorf, Germany, correct.
Okay. What questions do we have for Ben? Anybody?
I do have a question. I'm getting a lot of questions about cancellation fees and things like that. Do you have any information on that, Ben?
Yeah, well, a little bit, and like we've been saying, things are changing daily. Some airlines are waiving cancellation fees, but up to a certain point. Okay. Because once these bookings start, it depends on what airline you're talking to. They won't be waiving cancellation fees if you book after a certain date. Mm-hmm. But up until a certain date, there are some airlines waiving, and then there's some airlines that don't have cancellation fees, sure. at all. So it's a little bit all over the place, but I think folks that are booking now, which bookings are down, that's for sure, but folks that are booking, I think it might be tough to get cancellation fees waived for those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. All right.
Thank you,
Any other questions for Ben?
One other thing about how much information is being given to arriving passengers. Are they going to the visitor booth, or how, you're getting a lot of questions on that?
Information regarding...
Well, just, people land and say, well, what's, this here?
I think, I look at the messaging that's going on, and we're all reading a ton of it, and I got to say that I think the average person at this point knows how to keep their hands clean and not touch their face, and it's all very consistent, which I think is great. So I don't have any numbers in terms of, at the booths, what's going on. We're getting, most of the inquiries that we get for the airport has been more around what kind of precautions are we taking at the airport, and some of that's been publicized, but we are investing time and money to make sure that we are, being extra careful in terms of and taking precautions for cleaning all the high-touch areas, and our business partners are working very closely with us. So.
Very good. Thanks. Oh, yes, Pam, go.
Ben, I think that was an important point that you made at the meeting earlier, is that the janitorial company is the extra steps that they're taking.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that?
Oh, sure. So we have, we're doing extra cleaning in every high touch point area that we can, whether it's, bathrooms, railings, anything that is, frequently touched, our screens, for arrivals and departures and things like that. We've also taken it to the point in our shuttle bus operation for our long-term bus operation. There is constant cleaning going on there, and hand sanitizers, available in those. There's hand sanitizers available now in the cabs, and the cab MBA is taking it upon themselves to, clean after rides, and I think everybody's doing everything they can, but it really does come down to, the individuals too, just being aware and making sure that they're being very careful. So, but there's a lot of precautions being taken. So. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Very good. All right. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Seaver.
sure.
Appreciate it. And if we, I assume it'll probably even weave its way, this topic will, throughout the rest of the discussions. But what I want to do is get us out of here by 3 o'clock today, so that the folks who do want to go to the EOC meeting, the elected folks, we can go do that. So, okay, very good. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the February 13th. Oh, did you have a question? I'm sorry. Oh, good. The February 13th, 2020 TDC meeting minutes. Do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve?
Okay, the motion to approve is by Mayor Saracita, and the second is from Fran Myers. Do we have any discussion on the meeting minutes? Any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, the public to be heard today, really would love to hear from everybody, but if you could just kind of be cognizant of, we're trying to move the meeting a little quicker today, so keep your comments to what's necessary. Anybody wish to be heard? All right, go ahead and step on up to the podium. There you go.
Be announcing that their activity is ceasing for now. What type of economical impact do you think it'll have on the remaining 2 weeks of spring training?
That's a great question, right? What is the impact of the MLB's announcement about spring training today? So how many games were we through? Were we about halfway through? There's 20 games that we usually see every year. Do we know how many games we're through?
We are about halfway through. Jeff Milkey is here and can probably help us with that.
Okay. Yeah, we've got our sports development director. Come on up and talk to us about that.
So, Commissioner, I think while Jeff's coming to the podium, it's fair to say that that question is we're not really capable of answering it just yet. The announcement was just made, so we don't really know what it means yet. Jeff?
But to answer your question, yes, we're just a little past halfway through spring training season.
Okay, so we are. So it sounds like we're a little past halfway through spring training season. It's obviously way too early to tell what the exact impact's going to be. Some people may keep their plans and come down to the area anyways. If you're looking for an overall number, in 2018 we did a study on what the economic impact of spring training was, and it's about $70 million a year we see from spending coming into our market because of spring training. And it's certainly this would not be something that would be unique to the Fort Myers market. We do have 2 teams here, which is great, but there will be markets all over Florida and Arizona who will be affected by this. So, good questions. And if you have any follow-ups too, happy to talk to you afterwards. Okay. All right. What other public to be heard do we have today? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Let's move on to municipalities to be heard. Okay. Great. Come on, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Council, everyone. It's Michelle Dean with City of Cape Coral Parks and Recreation. I had lots of announcements from Cape Coral. I was hoping they'd be better announcements, but it's been a crazy day. I brought a couple slides, so we'll have something to look at. First of all, the Go Bond, the projects are coming along. If you want to, the first thing is we have 3 athletic parks, Pelican Baseball Complex, which recently got a new playground. This is Pelican. Across the bottom with that big shade structure. Awesome. The second, and that would open February 29th. The second one that just opened is Coza's Saladino, and that is these 2 up at the top right. So you can get a feel for what that one looks like. And then Northwest Softball Complex they broke ground. It should be done later in March or the beginning of April, and that's the one in the bottom right corner. And these are all our existing athletic parks, but Northwest Softball has been there for a long time with no playground at all. So we're really excited about these enhancements.
Well, as a Cape resident with kids, thank you so much for the shade structures and the new playgrounds, because I always feel bad sending my little guy on a hot slide. So thank you guys for that.
Right. And actually, and as part of the Go Bond improvements to the existing parks, there are several other parks, Camelot amongst those, that are getting shade structures over the existing playgrounds, and some over existing bleacher areas. So that's to come probably later this fall when the shade structures will be going over the existing things. But this is really exciting to see, and everybody's really enjoying it so far. And then we have Sunsplash, just where everybody wants to be right now. So the water park is now officially open for the season, and we were so excited to have a great forecast for spring break, which starts tomorrow, because the last 2 years of spring break have been not real great weather-wise, and so we were super excited for this. We're going to see how it plays out. Right now, we're scheduled to be open every day starting tomorrow through next Sunday from 10 to 5. I am going to tell you, I'll read this off. Sandy did send this to me yesterday. The CDC did put out a statement showing there's no evidence that the coronavirus can be spread to humans through the use of pools and hot tubs. So that's good for Sunsplash. And hopefully we'll still have a good season, and we'll all get through this. Sounds of Jazz and Blues. This is coming to Tarpon Point the end of March. Another one that's kind of, we're waiting to see. And then last but not least, Brews on the River. We're really excited, as was Tam, that we are going to have our first craft beer festival in the area. I did put a coaster on each of your place settings there, along with the rack card for Sunsplash. This is due to come on Saturday, April the 18th. We appreciate Courtney and the marketing team here helping to put on a contest to help promote this new event, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything continues to proceed and everybody continues to have a good season. But thank you for your continued support.
Thank you very much for your comments this morning and for the amazing events that you guys put together over there in the Cape. Thank you for sharing with us. All right, let's move on to the report of the executive director then. Was there any other municipality you wanted to be heard? No? Okay, very good.
Well, now we get to the good news part, I think.
That's right. So we had the bad news, now here's the good news.
So, boy, we started this year with a bang. Bed tax collection for January, 5.67 million, up 26.2% over last January. And, we're on the fiscal year. For the fiscal year to date, up 18.7%, just under 15 million for the first 4 months of the year. So, very good beginning. January STAR report, occupancy was up 3.5%. ADR up 9.2 for a RevPAR increase of 13%.
So right there, I mean, for folks who don't typically follow tourism, there's some good news right there, though, that the revenue per available room was up 13% so far into the year. And right now, while this is, a potentially huge hit to tourism, it's coming almost halfway through March, so we've gotten through a big chunk of our high season, and I'm hoping that we can make it through March here too. And obviously it's going to be an impact, but so far we've kind of had a great start to the beginning of the year where we maybe have put a little in the bank, so to speak.
In terms of airport traffic, traffic at the airport for January was over 1.1 million, 7.8% increase over January of last year. We were going to present to you our summer marketing campaign, and we can do that. We have a little bit of time, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time today. Share with you what we had planned. I can tell you that this plan has changed as of a couple of hours ago. In fact, Brian was busy updating this moments before you guys sat down here because we wanted to give you the latest, greatest information. We have been in very close contact with Visit Florida, U.S. Travel, Florida Hotel and Lodging Association, the National Restaurant Association, having communications, sitting in on conference calls. Obviously, COVID is going to have a significant impact on the tourism industry. And, our thought process, as is Visit Florida's, is that the drive market is going to be very important to us in the summer. We know that anyway. Our drive market is always very important to us. But you will see in this presentation that we are going to have an even greater focus than we were planning a couple of hours ago. So Brian, you want to give probably not every single slide and not every, because we are on a time, but let's run through it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can. I don't know how much or how little. Maybe we focus on bigger picture questions if any of the members of council have specific questions. But as Tam mentioned, we're prepared to pivot, and we are already making changes. We've had some movement of some budget from some Midwest markets into our primary drive markets, even more so than we were planning to do. A slide at the back of that packet, you'll see that our year-over-year drive market spend was going to be up 31%. And I did not have time before the meeting today to update that number, but it's going to be even a larger number than that. We were able to move some of our digital out-of-home to our in-state markets, plus Atlanta. We were also able to move advertising on podcasts and advanced TV as well. We made that call this morning. A lot of the native content that you see in that packet, and I'm glad to run through some of those, a lot of those have already been finalized. They've been placed. We can't affect change, we can't affect change on what's already out there for some of those placements. But as you can imagine with our digital placements, we can be much more nimble. So the good thing is Visit Florida is focusing on a drive market. They're promoting beaches and outdoor recreation as a key narrative, which is of course something that we offer as part of our mix here. And so we'll follow suit with the state, and as everyone says, we are monitoring the situation not just daily, but by the hour, and we're going to try to respond and put out the best marketing that we can. I think the key here is, that at least what we've been hearing is not to stop marketing. Now, of course, if that becomes the case, where we as a group decide that we need to go dark or pause anything, I'm not sure that's the best decision, just because we still want to stay top of mind. But we are already looking at plans B, C, and D in the event that a decision like that is made. So I'm glad to pull out anything from this plan that you'd like to discuss or field any questions that you might have.
I think that's a fantastic update, because one of the things I think we could talk about is, how will you guys in the specifically Visitor and Convention Bureau be monitoring the situation as it unfolds? Maybe that's a good one to share.
Sure. As I said, we're staying in very close contact with the state of Florida, obviously through the county, but also Visit Florida and U.S. Travel. For us, in terms of monitoring, our data is a little bit behind. You guys are the boots on the ground. The people in this room really know what's happening before we do, but we are having good conversations with you and conveying that information back up the chain. We're going to have to be nimble, but I think the good news about this is you have a very seasoned team who has been through a few crises before. And I can assure you that, the team is thinking very clearly and cognitively about the best moves that will affect us in the best possible way, given the circumstances at that moment, which seems to be changing the next day. But Rob, you had a question.
I just wonder, have we used any emergency funding? I mean, what, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, what everybody seems to be facing that I'm talking to. We've got a large portion of business that's going away, and really, really quick. And I'm talking about short window stuff. And yet I know people still want to do things that are close. So is there a thought that if we, this is kind of being real quick on our feet, I guess, came out with targeting those specific people that are having, they're close, they're locals, they can drive here, and yet they can't fly somewhere for spring break with their families or for early, we're talking spring now, this is a really quick turnaround. Should we be dumping some putting money and potentially pulling some money from somewhere to go after that group as fast as we can to try to salvage what could be a pretty difficult end of the spring, early summer business season for us all here?
So, Rob, you had a couple of questions in there. One, no reserve funds have been activated or discussed. Point. That's typically for a recovery period, coming back once the crisis has passed. Just by the changes that I mentioned, we are heavying up those drive markets, Tampa, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta. We are hanging on to Boston and Chicago just because they're strong summer markets for us. So the summer spend is big, but as far as local goes, the whole staycation perspective, much like we did during Red Tide with the One Lee effort, encouraging people to shop, stay, and play locally, we have not done anything locally either, because we are charged with spending money outside of the market. That would be a decision that would have to be made here, and the current creative that we have prepared would not be appropriate for a local market. We'd have to generate some new creative.
I spoke on what I meant by local. I don't mean local like Lee County local. I mean markets that are short enough drive markets that somebody can salvage a family vacation that was going to be a cruise to the Bahamas but is no longer going to happen. And right now they're looking for where can we go? What can we do with the family? We still want to do something. That market is what I'm talking about.
I think, let me just jump in for a second. I think it's a fantastic question. And honestly, I like the way you're thinking from a business perspective. It makes a ton of sense, right? And if it wasn't a public health crisis, I would say, let's do this. If it was oil, if it was algae, if it was something else. I think here's the major concern with this, though. We're now in a state where the governor is recommending that people not go out to mass public gatherings right now. And so I think you need to weigh that against, do we say more outsiders come in right now? I'm not saying don't. I wouldn't restrict it. I'm just saying I don't know if I want to spend money to make it happen. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You know, Rob, I think we're hitting those markets, and this is the biggest spend we make of the entire year, right, is our summer campaign. I mean, it's the heaviest spend we do. So I think that we are in a good position for that. I think what you're talking about is like in the week turnaround, probably not going to work unless you're offering a big deal. And I think that's a message that needs to go out to our industry partners. If you've got some rooms, get your deal up on the website, because people are going to be looking for deals. So I strongly encourage the industry partners who do have some rooms, and I don't know, from what I'm hearing, it's kind of a mixed bag. There have been some cancellations, but there also have been bookings over those cancellations. And maybe, you know, Tony and Fran can speak to that a little bit. I don't know what they're seeing, but I think I think we're going to be well positioned for catching the people who, within the state, aren't willing to travel on a plane.
I think the deals are important. You know, look what's happened to the airlines with their deals. People saying the millennials are all jumping on the airplanes, they don't care, they're just going to get here, they got a good deal.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful how low you go with your deals, because we've been down that road before and it doesn't always come out really well. Plus, you're right now in the middle of peak season, your higher rates, and if your guests are there, they're paying this amount, and all of a sudden they're seeing this, they might feel a little bit rejected depending on what type of property you have. I'd be a little cautious in deep discounting. You might have some deals, 4-night packages, 3-night packages, but I'd be very careful about deep discounting.
Yeah.
How are your bookings looking?
Right now, we're doing okay. We started the month probably, Fran, we were going to be about 12% up in March, and now we're going to probably pace about 5% down. So it's a swing of 17%. I mean, it's not small, but it's not the end of the world. And like the Commissioner said, we did have a very good start for January and February, but you don't want to see the bank, you don't want to see a hole in the piggy bank, so to speak. You know?
My store, all three stores, South End and Times Square, are still tracking up 5 to 12% up over our best year, which was 2015. And but I am hearing that there are some cancellations on the beach, and at the same time, seeing, especially on social media, lots of people who are looking for week-long stays, 2-week stays. They're still looking for that.
We had some cruise ship cancellations find us. You know, they're just probably, oh my God, we can't go on there, let's go on the web. And so if your website is up to date, it's probably really important.
I think some things are going to fill in.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
Colleen?
clarify that you would never go dark with marketing, right? You said that, but we would never do that. Like, right?
Like, what's that hesitation?
I would never say never. I mean, depending on what happens here.
Okay.
I mean, there
That wouldn't be a
as the Commissioner said, if it's a public health crisis and there comes a point where you simply are irresponsible and promote,
okay.
Clearly there might be some conditions where we would.
Right.
Okay.
Colleen, I just meant that to say we're looking at every scenario and trying to be as prepared as we can for what happens and what we need to do.
Okay.
But in reality, I mean, as an example, the integrated campaigns that are mentioned here, they're already running, and they're running until June, you know. You understand what I'm saying? Even if we screeching halt, there are things that are running because
They're in there.
they're bought, they're paid, they're placed. So I don't think dark is a really big word. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
I mean, I feel like we're fairly well positioned for some of these things. So, yes, our visitor trends a little older and probably doesn't want to jump on an airplane. I get that. But from an area of this whole thing, social distancing, what's better than to be out walking on a beach in Southwest Florida where the towns aren't necessarily that big? So I would maintain people are going to travel, they're going to do things, and we can give them an opportunity to travel to a place where they can have a great stay and still have a little bit of space and not be all over the top of each other. I mean, a lot of these people are coming from Florida cities where they're far more crowded. So I mean, the idea of going dark or something like that, to me, is, I get what you're saying. You don't know what they might decide to do with shutting certain things down moving forward. But for now, it seems to be very premature.
Sure, of course. All right, good deal. Any further discussion on that one? Brian, thanks for putting together a really nice PowerPoint. It is available if anybody wants to see it and take a look at it. Listen, we're gonna follow this one up. When's our next TDC meeting?
Next TDC meeting is Thursday, April 9th.
So it's only a month away, and a lot of the restrictions that I've seen go into place actually are slated to end April 1st. So maybe after April 1st, we'll know more about where the rest of the country's going with a lot of things. And I think we all are praying we'll be in a better position for that next TDC meeting to then talk about how we recover, as opposed to talking about more scenarios like we talked about today. So let's go to for council information. Anything that you want to share?
There are several things in your packet. One of them is the 2019, the full report from Down St. Germain. So full visitor counts, and information on occupancy and such from the bigger picture. I know you've seen the quarterly reports all year, but you have the full report in there. And there are a couple of other communications there. I always say you can't sleep reading, but.
That's great. All right, any TDC member items? Ms. Cronin? No?
I don't have anything.
Mayor, anything?
I'll just quickly thank you all. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this board. This will be my last meeting. My term ends. Rexanne Hossafraz, a council member who is in the back, she's attended all the meetings with me. She hopefully will take my place. But I jokingly tell Fran all the time that whenever Fran decides she wants to retire, I'll be knocking on your door, Commissioner, to lobby and say, oh, let me be on that board, because it's the only one I would do. And Pam, I wanted to thank you over the years for all the help you have given Fort Myers Beach and us, and congratulate you on your new position. I was very excited for you. So anyway, thank you all very much. It's been wonderful. Or maybe I spoke too soon.
No, it was a real pleasure serving with you, too. I don't know if Tam's got anything to say as well. I'm sure she has a ton of things to say. But let me just say this. It has been a pleasure serving with you. Your passion is incredible for your island. Nobody represents Fort Myers Beach better than you. I mean, I just have really enjoyed working with you. And
I love that island with all my heart.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Well, obviously, we enjoyed that, but I think I probably have to make a little bit of an announcement, because there may be some confusion about the lovely Pamela Johnson, our fantastic deputy director here.
Did I read or hear something incorrectly? I hope I didn't.
Well, you didn't read it incorrectly. It might have been written incorrectly. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, leave it to me, Pam.
Pamela's going to stay with us, which, I think that might be
that's even better.
All right.
Good.
I don't know.
Pam.
That's kind of like my daughter getting married and Pamela staying. Those are like 3 best days of my life. No, I said those are my 3 best days. I was teasing you. But we're glad she's still here.
So am I. Okay, well, good.
All right, very good. Fran, anything for the good of
Only
the...
that Fort Myers Beach has no idea what they're about to lose. She has been, from the beginning, from the very beginning, and what an addition, and
I'm not going anywhere.
I know you're not. You're maybe coming here.
I say this with a smile and a heavy sense of sarcasm. At least it's been a civil election out there. No, sorry, I don't mean... Yeah, it's been rough. That has been a rough one.
You are on a roll today.
Yes. Colleen,
Nothing for the group.
No. Mr. Wells, anything? Mr. Lappy? No? Good. All right, thank you guys very much for coming today. Listen, let's keep in touch with each other, too. As you're hearing things, as your chair of the TDC, I want you to know that you can call me and talk to me, and I'm here to support you, and that goes for anybody in the tourism industry.
The councilman on the phone, do you want to...
Oh, Mr. McLean, do you have anything that you'd like to add? I'll take that as he likes what I said, yeah. Good. All right, and so with that, I'm here for y'all. We'll adjourn. Thank you.